They don't know. I've been wallowing in the mire for 8 years. More docile than anyone, yet more ruthless than anyone. So when my eldest sister decided I should marry Pei-Chi, no one asked if I was willing. Before my eldest sister married Prince Rui, she took my hand and said, her voice low and urgent, Pei-Chi is a man of upright character, he will not treat you unfairly. Zhao Zhao, you must treat him well. She wanted me to take care of Pei-Chi for her, so she could marry into the royal household with peace of mind. On the day of the wedding procession, my elder brother carried me on his back. As he walked, he said only this. This marriage of yours was bought at the cost of your sister's sacrifice. If you dare stir up trouble, I will not spare you. Sacrifice? My heart trembled. And yet, I** was the one who had suffered more. It was only later that I understood. The ones who devour you are always your own people. I retrieved the dagger and the poison I'd kept hidden at the bottom of my trunk. The world is too filthy. The only way forward is blade first. Prince Rui said my eldest sister reminded him of the one who saved him in his youth. So he personally sought her hand in marriage. Father went to the prince's mansion and saw the portrait of that woman. When he returned, he stared at the two of us sisters for a long time. There was something in his gaze that I couldn't read, something heavy pressing down on us. He held me in his arms for the first time, his voice tinged with hesitation and guilt. Zhao Zhao, your eldest sister is about to marry into the prince's household. Back then, I thought his guilt came from being forced, by the weight of power, to marry my sister into the royal family. When the Imperial edict bestowing the marriage came down, the entire household was flooded with joy. But I didn't understand, why did I have to marry too? We're sisters. Now that your elder sister has found a good match, naturally I must find you a fine husband as well. My eldest sister tapped me on the nose. Her smile carried something I couldn't quite read. She was the kindest person in this family to me. I was only 6 when I was abducted. It took 8 long years before they found me again, but the warmth of family I'd longed for as a child was nothing like what I'd imagined. My elder brother was always distant with me, we barely exchanged a dozen words in a year. Nothing like the way he treated my eldest sister, the endless chatter, the endless gifts. I could only stand to the side, watching, smiling obediently along. My parents were gentle and affectionate enough, but something was always missing. That child Zhao Zhao carries too much weight in her heart, and we've wronged her for so many years, she was never truly close to us. I stood outside the door, eavesdropping, and felt cold wind pour into my chest. Perhaps I'd spent so many years abroad, surviving by my wits, fighting for scraps, that I simply didn't know how to be a good daughter. So I put away my poison and my dagger. I learned to act like the other noble ladies, plucking flowers, reciting poetry, demure and sweet. 2 years passed, and I seemed to blend into the family. Over tea and meals, I almost believed we were truly bound by blood. My brother's gifts now came in pairs. And now, this. Marriage. Sister, if Pei-Chi is really so wonderful, why don't you marry him yourself? I looked at her steadily. One sentence, and her litany of praise for Pei-Chi came to a halt. She froze, as if struck by something. The air grew thick. She seemed startled, because for the past 2 years, I'd been nothing but obedient. I'd never once said no. Her expression turned awkward. Zhao Zhao, you know the emperor has decreed this. I have no choice. I didn't understand. I took her hand. Sister, if I were you, I'd only do what my heart truly wants. She stared at me, lips slightly parted, as if I'd become a stranger. I realized I'd said too much. I lowered my head. Back to my obedient mask. She sighed. Zhao Zhao, you're still young. You don't understand that a family's rise and fall, marriage has never been a matter of our own will. I didn't answer. So it was our parents' decision. Zhao Zhao, you must treat him well. My sister's eyes were suddenly intense. Her gaze complicated. She seemed unhappy that I was marrying Pei-Chi. Her fingers twisted her handkerchief, half admonishing, half threatening. If I hear you've been willful or caused him trouble, I will. She stopped, because the coldness in my gaze made her flinch. My parents and brother had sheltered her well. She'd never seen the savagery of people tearing each other apart. But she still shrank back, involuntarily, at what she saw in my eyes. I didn't want to argue with her. I left her with only this. If you're so worried about him, you can marry him yourself. Tend to him day and night. And without waiting for her face to pale further, I turned and walked away. Pei-Chi? To me, he was just someone with a nice smile. Hardly a treasure I'd stumbled upon. The one my sister didn't want, they were trying to pawn off on me. But I hadn't expected everyone to come and persuade me. My mother pleaded with me. My father mixed threats with coaxing. Even my brother, who'd never shown me much care, brought my favorite pear blossom pastries to sweeten me. And finally, Pei-Chi himself came to me, his words earnest. Zhao Zhao, I know what you're afraid of. Rest assured, I will treasure you. I will honor you and protect you, all the days of my life. And then? But never love me, right? I caught the loophole in his promise. Yet Pei-Chi was undeniably handsome, refined and noble in bearing. The fact that he'd lower himself to coax me piqued my curiosity. Fine. I'll marry him. Everyone wanted me to. So I'd see what they were all scheming. For some reason, my father gave me 5 more bridal chests than he'd given my eldest sister. He looked at me, his eyes glistening, and patted my head for the first time. Zhao Zhao, your father has failed you. You've suffered so much. My brother's gaze flickered, a faint frown creasing his brow. My mother wept openly, her eyes full of reluctance. My eldest sister, however, looked past me, at Pei-Chi in his red wedding robes, and bit her lip. According to custom, my brother carried me on his back for the bridal procession. His voice dropped so only I could hear. This match was your sister's to begin with. Don't think I don't see you using our parents' guilt to swindle a bigger dowry. My heart sank. He tightened his grip on me and let out a cold scoff. Qin Zhao, I know you're trying to get one over on Yunru. But don't forget, she still has me, her elder brother, backing her. So that's what he thought. My nails dug into my palms. The sharp pain grounded me. He paused, his tone hardening into something unyielding. Yes, you spent years outside. But Yunru didn't owe you anything for that. Once you're married, if you dare cause any trouble, I will make you pay. My heart trembled. My eyes burned. This was my wedding day. Did he have to say this to me today? I stared at the back of his neck, my voice cold as ice. Brother, since you're so insistent on calling me out, have you forgotten why I went missing in the first place? Qin Yan nearly stumbled, caught off guard. The crowd murmured. He barely steadied himself. His heart was racing, because it was he who'd taken me out to buy candied hawthorns. It was he who'd lost me. My mother had fainted from grief more than once. My father had spent fortunes searching. My brother had taken beating after beating, consumed by guilt and regret. From then on, he'd shed his careless ways. To make up for his failure, he doted on my eldest sister, attentive, considerate, meticulous. Only then did my parents gradually forgive him. But he'd never forgotten those days of reproach from every elder in the family, the sleepless nights of a frightened child, all because of me. So when I finally returned home, he kept his distance. I wanted to say, brother, Zhao Zhao never blamed you. Zhao Zhao waited every day for you to come get me. But there was no chance anymore. Qin Yan, you have no chance anymore. In the bridal chamber, I sat quietly, waiting for the storm to break in the front hall. He'd gotten into a fight at the banquet. My father had slapped him across the face in front of everyone. I'd made sure the scandal would spread across the capital. My brother didn't usually care much about my affairs. And he was a lightweight with alcohol, he rarely dared to overindulge. But perhaps my words on the wedding day had cut too deep. He drunk cup after cup, as if trying to drown the weight of my 8 lost years and the weight of what I'd said. With countless guests and Pei family relatives toasting him, calling out Shindigongzi at every turn, he'd lost all composure. My father was livid. He ordered my brother to kneel in the ancestral hall for a full month. I wasn't surprised, because the men doing the toasting had been arranged by me. Xin Yan said this fine match was my sister's gift to me. Because she and Pei Qi had been in love, truly in love. It was only Prince Rui's sudden appearance that had intervened. Pei Qi's brilliance was known throughout the city, and he was handsome enough to rival Panin. By any measure, he should have been a good match. But before the wedding, I'd overheard him tell my sister, "I'll just marry her. Don't worry, I won't touch her. She'll have an empty room and a lonely life. That's punishment enough for coming between us." Is that so? So they'd already planned to leave me forsaken, lonely for the rest of my days. But being forced to serve me? That was his misfortune. That's why, on our wedding night, when he tried to set down rules for us to stay apart, I tore his clothes off and took him by force. They expected me to be a wife in name only, running the household, performing my duties, yet never touching the man I married? That's not how the world works. When Pei Qi lay in bed, staring at the ceiling like a man condemned, I offered some comfort. "Don't worry, husband. We were wed by proper rights, by law and by custom. There's nothing improper here. Don't think giving me a title is charity. I have to get something out of this." And the sight of him, tearful, only made him more beautiful. No wonder my sister couldn't let go. The red at the corners of his eyes made him look even more pitiful and more tempting. "Xin Zhao, I misjudged you." His voice shook with anger and regret, as if he'd made a terrible mistake by provoking me. But I wasn't angry. I reached out and pressed my fingers lightly against his throat. "What's this? You married me, and yet your heart still pines for my sister, now a princess consort? Pei Qi, you were the one who asked me to marry you." I released him, ignoring his heaving chest, and began dressing. "Come now. Time to present tea to your mother." My mother-in-law never liked my eldest sister. She looked down on her for currying favor with the powerful. But since she couldn't stop Pei Qi from marrying me, her hatred simply transferred to me. She made me hold the scalding tea for a long time. The heat burned through the cup and into my palms, the pain and the fragrance of tea blurred together. Pei Qi saw it, a faint frown crossing his brow. But he didn't stop his mother's torment. In front of the elders, I was still the obedient child. There were too many eyes on me that day. I couldn't let anyone accuse my mother of failing to teach me properly. So after enduring the lecture and returning to our chambers, he looked at my red, trembling fingers and said only, "Since you're so determined to be Lady Pei, you'll have to bear it from now on." He was punishing me for my insolence the night before. Unfortunately, any suffering I endured here, I'd make up for elsewhere. That night, I made him cry. I wasn't afraid of him lashing out in public. After all, he was a man. He'd never admit to being bullied by his wife. He was too proud. So when my mother-in-law made my life difficult, I made his equally difficult. Pei Qi was so worn out by our nightly battles that he barely had time to reply to my sister's letters. But gradually, he began sending me hairpins and jewelry. Sometimes, when his mother was too overbearing, he'd speak up for me. So later, when my eldest sister saw the marks on his neck, her eyes reddened. She was already married to Prince Rui by then, visiting me, supposedly. Yet she and Pei Qi stood in the small garden, gazing at each other through tears. I should have known it would come to this. Ah, Qi, I was foolish to hold on to hope. My sister finished speaking, tears soaking her embroidered handkerchief. The way she looked at him, yearning, helpless, full of grief. Pei Qi opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time, he didn't comfort her. My sister stared at him, then suddenly threw herself into his arms, sobbing. Pei Qi's body went rigid, at a loss. He was a man of propriety. No matter how deeply he loved her, he couldn't behave so recklessly, so callously disregarding reputation. But the hand he'd raised to push her away dropped back down. I watched from behind the rockery, my expression dark. I was about to step out when a hand clamped over my mouth and nose. Xin Yan. He'd come too? His face was ghastly, his eyes fixed on me with barely restrained fury. "What are you going to do? If you show yourself now, you'll humiliate everyone. Zhao Zhao, when will you grow up? Your sister's heart is already aching. You pity her pain, who pities mine? I stepped back, my voice distant. Brother, I don't understand. The ones trampling the honor of both families aren't me. Shin Yan's face twisted with rage. He raised his hand to strike me, but stopped just short of my face. Seeing I wouldn't flinch, his expression shifted through several shades of conflict. Finally, he lowered his hand. Zhao Zhao, I was wrong about what happened back then. But do you think these years have been easy for me? Don't push your luck. If you ever wrong Yunru, if you do anything to hurt her, don't expect me or our parents to show you mercy. Really? I'd like to see exactly how they deal with me. That night, perhaps guilty over what had happened in the day, Pei Qi was unusually solicitous. I refused him. He froze, his chin resting on my shoulder, bewildered for the first time. What's wrong? He asked cautiously. I turned over, blew out the lamp, and said nothing. For a long time, the room was silent, silent enough to choke on. I closed my eyes. But in the end, the question clawed out of me. Pei Qi, my mother-in-law summoned me to kneel at the Buddha altar today. Was that your idea? His entire body went rigid. The stillness became unbearable. But he deflected. Why do you ask? I didn't answer. I buried my face in the pillow, and a single tear slipped silently down my cheek. Because she'd kept me there on purpose. So he could meet my sister alone. My nose stung with the bitterness of it. Pei Qi, you would trample me just to satisfy your own fickle heart. By moonlight, his arm shifted slightly toward me, a silent apology, an unspoken closeness. In a place I could not see, the way Pei Qi looked at me had become complicated. But it was too late for him now. I decided to go back and confront my parents properly. Before my carriage even left, Chu Xiang came with word that my mother-in-law was bad-mouthing me to several noble ladies again. I'd only been married a few months, and she'd made my life difficult at every turn, not to mention repeatedly ruining my reputation. My fists clenched. I'd been too focused on figuring out why they'd all pushed me into this marriage to settle scores with her. But she'd gone too far. At the Shin mansion, my mother was overjoyed to see me. She fussed over me, made my favorite peach blossom pancakes. My heart warmed. I couldn't help leaning into the faint jasmine scent on her clothes. But when I mentioned my mother-in-law's treatment, her chopsticks paused. Her smile faded. She glanced around, making sure no one else was in the courtyard, then sighed. Zhao Zhao, all daughters go through this. Don't make a scene. The needle found its mark. The warmth I'd felt turned to ice. When I didn't answer, she took my hand. Zhao Zhao, this marriage was arranged after much deliberation. You mustn't be willful. Your brother, your sister, everyone in this family has sacrificed for the greater good. She paused, then added, as long as your mother-in-law doesn't do anything to truly harm you, just be obedient. Go along with her. She may grind you down a little, but she won't kill you. I looked up sharply, searched her eyes. She looked away. My heart seized, pain knotting in my chest, and for the first time, I felt not anger, but exhaustion. I almost laughed. If I'd never come back, never claimed these people as family, it might have been better for everyone. After I left, my mother went to my father's study. Zhao Zhao came back, crying, saying the Pei family is mistreating her. But I sent her on her way, she said, grinding ink as she sighed. My brother was furious, grinding his teeth at the mention of me. I knew she wouldn't stay quiet. Father, I'm afraid if she makes too much of a scene, she'll draw unwanted attention and ruin everything. My father's brush slipped, blotting the page. He glared at my brother. My mother's face clouded with worry. If that happens, we'll be in real trouble. I told you all not to take this risk. If Prince Rui ever sees Zhao Zhao's face. My father threw down his brush. So we must make sure Prince Rui never sees Zhao Zhao. My mother lowered her head. My brother's eyes flashed with menace. They didn't know I'd doubled back and heard everything from the rooftop. Back home, I was still sorting through the mess in my head when Granny Sun, my mother-in-law's personal attendant, appeared with a bowl of bird's nest soup. Madam, You're back. The old lady was just asking about you, she said, beaming. She said you should have told her you were visiting your family, we would have prepared gifts to send along. Her sudden warmth surprised me, but I smiled and made pleasantries. Granny's son praised me a bit, then changed tack. The old lady also said, since the eldest Miss Shin is now princess consort, we're connected to Prince Rui by marriage as well. We should visit more often. She added that my mother-in-law had personally prepared some blood nest soup, and insisted I drink it while it was hot. After she left, Chushan whispered that my mother-in-law was probably intimidated by my sister's new status. She wouldn't push me too hard. I swirled the bowl, saying nothing. The faint bitterness still lingered on my tongue. Pei Qi rushed in, as if eager to tell me something. He took my hand, opened his mouth, and froze when he saw the empty bowl. You already drank it? He seemed conflicted, something like reluctance and pain flickering across his face. I nodded. Mother gave it to me. I've drunk it. Is something the matter? He paused, his gaze shifting, then forced a different subject. Your brother came to drink with me tonight. Rest early. I looked at him, and the last trace of warmth in my eyes vanished. Very well, was all I said. Qin Yan? Perfect timing. I'd seen clearly from the rooftop today the impatience and the cruelty in his eyes when he spoke of me, and I needed him as my blade. Granny's son reported back, slightly hesitant. Madam, the medicine won't kill her, but it will drain her vitality and cloud her mind. Eventually, the young mistress will figure it out. My mother-in-law clicked her prayer beads, unconcerned. So what? The Shins don't care about her anyway. That little wretch dared to go running home to complain. She needs to learn who she should be wagging her tail at. Besides, it won't kill her. Once she's properly cowed, I'll have my peace. She waved her hand. Wasn't Xin Yan supposed to come tonight? Bring out my best wine. Make sure young Master Shin drinks his fill. If they're siblings, he won't be helping Shin Zhao find a physician. Granny's son departed. A trace of cruelty crossed my mother-in-law's face. And I, too, had put something in Xin Yan's wine. Tonight was the last night of peace in the Pei household. Night fell. Lanterns blazed. Pei Qi and Xin Yan drank cup after cup. Xin Yan, flushed, complained about how I never got close to him, how I was always competing with my eldest sister. Ah Qi, you and Yunru were made for each other. It's a shame that wretch Zhao Zhao ruined it. Pei Qi watched his moving lips in the lamplight and felt, for the first time, a creeping absurdity. Xin Yan, the one who broke the match was Prince Rui, not Zhao Zhao. I never noticed before, but you really do feel nothing for her. Xin Yan stared at him, his smile fading into irritation. You don't understand. If it weren't for her, there wouldn't have been any of this savior. Nonsense. Pei Qi didn't catch the slip. He merely objected to their favoritism. Don't take me for a fool. The emperor decreed this marriage. Yes, but if Yunru truly hadn't wanted it, no one could have forced her. I've held my tongue because I pitied her situation. But now, I've married Zhao Zhao. The bond is sealed. I should let the past go. He stopped, startled by his own words. It must have been the wine, he thought. That made him defend me. But in his mind, all he could see was the softness of Zhao Zhao's arms around his neck. Qin Yan rose angrily, knocking over bottles and cups. They argued briefly, then parted ways. Qin Yan stumbled toward the guest quarters, unaware that the servant leading him was mine, and that he was walking to his death. I followed my mother-in-law's arrangement, appearing dizzy and bedridden, unable to leave my room. No one knew I hadn't slept at all. I polished my dagger, its blade catching the candlelight. In all my years on the streets, I'd learned many things: poisons, martial arts, and most of all, survival. Survival in any environment. When the enemy's motives were unclear, when I didn't know their hand, I could be more docile than anyone. But the moment I drew steel, I struck to kill. Dawn was still hours away when a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence of the Pei household. Someone come! A death! In an instant. Frantic servants. Chaos. Scattered lanterns. Sobbing. Shouting. Hushed whispers. Pei-Chi was yanked from sleep by a trembling servant. "My lord, you must come quickly." In the old lady's courtyard. His face went white. Barefoot. He ran. Chuxiang burst in, half a candle still clutched in her hand, wax dripping over her fingers. "The old lady's courtyard. The young master," she stammered, teeth chattering. I sat up, hair loose, expression unruffled. He stumbled into her chambers drunk. Someone caught him. The old lady. She took a pair of shears. She ended her own life. The room fell still. My fingers were cold, my thoughts distant. So she didn't have the nerve to kill Xinyan after all? I'd left the shears on her table, hoping she might have some spine. But it turned out her cruelty was only for the inner chambers. No matter. The crime Xinyan had committed left him no other path. I slowly gathered my hair behind my ears. Fetch my clothes. My mother-in-law's courtyard was a hive of chaos. Maids and servants knelt everywhere, some sobbing, some retching, one staring blankly at nothing. The first one to find the body. It seemed her soul had already fled. Pei-Chi knelt before his mother's corpse, pale as death. I could see his whole body shaking. He was crying. Xinyan had already been seized. Kneeling on the bluestone in the center of the courtyard, chest bared, scratches red across his collarbones. I don't know, I went the wrong way." He repeated the words over and over. I stopped at the bottom of the steps. I didn't go closer. When Xinyan looked up and saw me, it was as though he'd been branded by a hot iron. "Zhao Zhao." He crawled forward 2 steps, chains clanking. As the servants held him down, he raised both bloodied hands to me, his palms caked red. "Speak for me. I was drunk." I didn't know it was her room. I looked down at him. His eyes were swollen to slits, bloodshot and wet. His lips were purple, from Pei-Chi's beating. I guessed. "Brother." I crouched to his eye level. "What would you have me say?" He blinked, uncomprehending. "Say that a man's honor matters more than Mother Pei's life?" The courtyard wind stirred. Lanterns swayed, illuminating the blood-crusted pallor beneath his face. He lunged up wildly, a desperate, frantic terror in his eyes. In broad daylight, before all these witnesses, he'd violated propriety, driven his elder to suicide. This charge would destroy him, end his career, bring down the entire Shin house. Pays had already secured the scene and sent word to the authorities. The once proud, brazen young Master Shin was now nothing but a death row prisoner awaiting autumn execution. Xinyan suddenly looked at me, one long, complex look. I turned away, toward Pei-Chi, who knelt among the ruins, on the verge of shattering. He looked up, his eyes bloodshot, his voice trembling with rage. "With such a catastrophe, you, as mistress of this house, arrive only now?" Everyone turned to stare at me. The silence was absolute. "Your mother's bird's nest soup made me dizzy and sick. I slept for hours," I said, leaning against a pillar, my voice carrying to every ear. "Chuxiang went for a physician, but your mother's people blocked her. They told me to stay in my room and not bother the household physician." A murmur rippled through the courtyard. Faces shifted with uneasy glances. Pei-Chi's expression froze. His anger crumbled, replaced by something like guilt. His throat moved. His voice dropped. "You." I stepped closer, my voice steady. "That day, when you rushed over, what were you going to tell me?" He didn't answer. Everyone watched him. He stood there, as if flayed alive. Because he remembered. He could have warned me. But when he'd seen I'd already drunk it, he'd chosen to protect his mother. Pei-Chi stood frozen, a statue of marble. But as his gaze swept past Xinyan's panic-stricken face and the blood-stained stones, a fresh surge of resentment and hatred rose in him. "Qin Zhao, even now, you're still complaining about her trivial discipline? Have you no heart?" His eyes burned, his voice shaking. "My mother is dead. Dead. Alive. Snuffed out by your brother's hand." "Yushins," I wrenched my arm from his grip. He stumbled back, hitting a pillar. "Pei-Chi, You know better than I what was in that bird's nest soup. I held his gaze, each word distinct. I drank it. So I knew nothing, and nothing happened under my watch. The one you need to demand justice from is Xinyan, not me. He looked as though I'd struck him senseless. He stared at me, and I watched something break behind his eyes. Suddenly, he collapsed to his knees, asterisk thump asterisk, his fist slamming against the stone. Once, twice, 3 times. Blood seeped from his knuckles, mixing with dirt, spreading in dark patches. Ah, the sound was inhuman, like a wounded animal trapped in a cage. No one dared breathe. The only sounds were his howls and sobs. Across the yard, Xinyan shook in his chains, the links clattering. His eyes met mine, cold, pitiless. He knew. He was finished. Within half a day, the news had reached the Shin mansion. By dusk, my parents burst into the Pei household like mad, not to mourn, not to offer condolences, but straight to my door. No questions. No inquiry. Only bitter accusations. Xin Zhao, what have you done? My father's face was livid, his eyes full of menace, nothing like the gentle man he'd seemed. My mother, red-eyed, lunged for my sleeve. How has a good boy like Yenner come to this? Was it intentional? Are you holding a grudge against us? Did you ruin your brother on purpose? They cast the blame on me, without proof, without a shred of evidence. Because they, like Xinyan, knew they'd wronged me, and so they accused the one they'd wronged. I stood under the eaves, evening breeze stirring my hems, my expression as calm as a still lake. Intentional? I repeated, a cold, faint smile tugging at my lips. Mother, you taught me yourself only yesterday. My mother-in-law would only grind me down a little, she wouldn't kill me. I was to bear it quietly and make no trouble. I bore it. I was drugged and confined to my room. I slept through the night without stirring. My brother stumbled into the wrong courtyard, and my mother-in-law took her own life in shame. From start to finish, how does this involve me? My mother paled, struck dumb. Tears of frustration sprang to her eyes. But he's your brother, the only legitimate son of the Shin house. If he dies, the family falls. Zhao Zhao, how can you be so heartless? Heartless? Mother, what would you have me do? I lifted my gaze. Storm the yamen? Or kneel at the Pei gate and beg for mercy? You, father. I cut him off. Pei Chi's mother was shamed to death. Everyone in this household saw it. Withdraw the charges? Are you joking? His face twisted. My mother's lips went white. Her voice faltered. Can't you find a way? Zhao Zhao, he's your own blood brother. Blood brother. I repeated the words, staring at my own fingertips. The year he lost me, I was 8. Mother, I called his name under the blazing sun, I called all day long. I called for my mother, my father, heaven and earth. No one came for me. In those years, I fought stray dogs for scraps. I cracked my head open fighting for a single steamed bun. And when I finally came home, how did the one responsible treat me? Do you truly not see? Her lips went bloodless. She stood there, hollowed out, like a guttering candle. My father's eyes flickered, something like remorse crossed his face before he hung his head with a sigh. I'm begging you. My mother knelt before me, her hands on my knees, looking up, tears streaming down. Your brother is the only male heir of the Shin family. If he dies, our bloodline ends. Your father, he hasn't eaten all day. I looked at my father. He'd given me extra dowry chests. I recalled. Probably because marrying my eldest sister to Prince Rui made him feel guilty. Heartless as he was, at least he'd offered some recompense. Tears are the cheapest thing in the world. But somehow, they soften even the hardest heart. Because they're warm. I dropped my gaze, considering for a moment, then said, I can't do anything about the Pei family's affairs. But someone else can. My mother raised her head, hope kindling in her eyes. Who? Who can? I looked at them, and delivered the sharpest blade to their hands. Word by word, eldest sister. Qinyunru is now Princess Consort Rui, noble and untouchable. If she personally mediates with the Pei family, if she speaks a word to the authorities, a mere death penalty scandal, with Prince Rui's word, can be glossed over and Xinyan's life spared. And besides, you know better than I who Pei Qi values most. It was like a lifeline thrown to the drowning. They snapped to attention, a wild hope blazing in their eyes. They scrambled to their feet, forgetting their tears. Yes, yes, Yunru, our Yunru, if she speaks up, she can surely save Yenner. They couldn't spare another thought for me. They straightened their robes and rushed out to beseech my eldest sister. Watching them disappear, I stood still in the cool evening breeze, the courtyard shadows stretching. I wasn't going to save anyone, but I also wouldn't stop them from seeking help. They'd soon learn that the most refined, most gentle, most innocent eldest daughter of the Shen house was also the most cold-blooded. Chu Xiang brought word while I burned paper offerings for my mother-in-law. My parents hadn't even been allowed through the prince's gates. They'd wept and pleaded for 2 hours outside. My mother had fainted, cursing her ungrateful daughter all the while. I am Prince Rui's consort now. Every word and action reflects the dignity of the prince's household. If I intercede on behalf of a man convicted of such crimes, defiling propriety, driving a noble woman to suicide, with witnesses and evidence undeniable, then I will be seen as perverting justice for family favor. That would implicate Prince Rui and bring calamity upon the entire Shen house. Would you have me gamble all our futures for the sake of a man who deserves his fate? Her words were impeccably righteous, bitingly cold. She could help. She simply wouldn't. The news reached the dungeon quickly. Xin Yan, fettered and broken in the dank, straw-strewn darkness, had clung to a thread of hope. He believed his parents would save him. He believed his most beloved sister Yunru would never let him die. But when the jailer relayed her exact words, in that moment, the illusions he'd guarded all his life, the devotion, the favoritism, the belief in his sister's love, all of it came crashing down. He let out a low, hollow laugh, fading into a cracked, desperate sob. And then, tears streaming, he laughed again, bitter, wild. In the deepest shadows of the dungeon, Xinyan laughed until his voice broke. And then he wept. And in that darkness, he swore. He had nothing left to lose. My eldest sister wasn't as cold as she seemed, nor as loving. She couldn't bear to see her brother die, but she couldn't bear to give up her glory either. She'd refused our parents before, turning a blind eye to the scandal, because she feared it would taint her. She was terrified of losing Prince Rui's regard, of losing her place, because only after marriage had she realized Prince Rui didn't love her. He only softened when she smiled, because her smile, he'd admitted, reminded him of someone else. And that made her hate her all the more, because when she smiled, she looked like me. But late at night, in the depths of the prince's mansion, she couldn't shake the dread. That was the brother who'd protected her since childhood, the pillar of the Shen family. If Xin Yan were executed, the Shen family would lose its only heir, and she would lose her only source of backing. After much deliberation, she chose the safest path. She wouldn't act herself. She'd make me act. The next afternoon, Prince Rui's procession drew up before the Pei mansion in full splendor. Xin Yunru, in her consort's robes, jewels adorning her hair, approached me with elegant composure. Her features remained gentle, her voice mild, but her words carried the weight of authority. Zhao Zhao, I know you've suffered in this affair. She stood before me, her tone like a patronizing consolation. But the dead are gone. Pursuing this further will bring no benefit. Xinyan is our only brother. You can't just stand by and watch him die. I looked up, my gaze unruffled. Did you not just refuse our parents, saying you couldn't involve yourself in this matter? Her composure cracked, just slightly. She quickly smoothed it over, a layer of pressure entering her voice. I am Prince Rui's consort. My status carries weight. Every move I make touches the honor of the prince's household. I cannot be seen meddling in a case involving lewd conduct and death. But you are different. You are Lady Pei. If you plead for mercy, it's a family matter, nothing to do with imperial politics or public standing. Chu Xiang, behind me, frowned at this reasoning. Zhao Zhao. Go to Pei Qi. Ask him to drop the charges, and let our brother live. I laughed. Beautiful. She wouldn't touch the filth, so she'd push me into it. I met her gaze. My voice cold. If you won't touch the mud, why should I? Shin Yunru's expression darkened. For the first time, she let her arrogance show. Shin Zhao, don't forget the peace you have today. You owe to the Shin family. If I hadn't stepped aside, you would never have become a proper wife. If you save our brother, you'll be repaying the family's kindness. If you refuse, she paused, eyes glinting with menace. I am Princess Consort Rue. If I choose to make things difficult for the Pei family, for you, a mere woman, it wouldn't take much. A clear, naked threat. Prince Rui Rongjing had only married her because her features reminded him of his childhood savior. He treated her with courtesy but never affection. He would never bend the law for her. But she didn't see it that way. At her signal, 2 attendants stepped forward. Zhu Xiong tensed, moving to block them. Auntie Chiu, teach her some manners. My sister smoothed her hair, her tone leisurely, but beneath it lay a cold cruelty. In the next breath, I didn't even blink. I shifted, a blur of motion. Asterisk crack, asterisk a sharp, resounding slap. I'd put my full strength behind it, no restraint. Shin Yunru's head snapped to the side. Jewels clattered from her hair, scattering across the stones. She froze, her hand pressed to her cheek. The elegant composure in her eyes shattered completely. The 2 attendants stood rooted in shock. They hadn't even seen me move. Shin Zhao, have you lost your mind? You dare strike me? What are you all standing there for? Seize her. Even as she raged in my courtyard, far away in the dungeon's gloom, Shin Yan had reached his breaking point. He'd once protected Yunru and resented me for being difficult. But now, in the darkness of death row, he'd seen the truth. The most hypocritical, the coldest, was Shin Yunru, the sister he'd shielded all his life. If the whole family wanted him dead, if the sister he cherished had cast him aside like refuse, then he would protect no one. He would tear down everyone's facades. Shin Yan bribed a jailer, ignoring his own ruin, and had a secret letter smuggled out to Prince Rui's most trusted man. One sentence, one earth-shattering revelation. The girl who saved your life all those years ago was not Shin Yunru. It was your second sister, Shin Zhao. The Shin family deliberately concealed the truth and claimed the credit falsely. He didn't seek to save himself. He only wanted them all to fall together. The jailer who carried that letter was one I'd bribed long before. For weeks, I'd had him feed Shin Yan selective truths, half-truths, mixed with carefully planted lies. Such as the lie that my parents were still fighting for him. Prince Rui hadn't yet received the letter, but the Shin household was already in chaos. My parents were terrified. They knew he'd tried to expose everything. My father had seen the portrait in Prince Rui's mansion. He knew I was the true savior. But they'd never sent me to the prince. Because, first, they feared Rongjing would discover that Shin Yan had been the one who'd caused my abduction and hold the family accountable. And second, the deeper, more selfish reason, they believed that since I'd grown up in the wilderness, never knowing their affection, I wouldn't be grateful to the Shin family. I wouldn't put its interests first. By contrast, Shin Yunru, raised in their home, gentle and biddable, was the perfect pawn for their ambitions. So they'd hidden my existence, thanking the heavens that Rongjing had never met me in person. And then, they'd married me off quickly, before anyone could discover the truth. Now, as the truth was about to come to light, my father's face was pale with terror. It's over. Everything's over. That wretched son, we're out here fighting for his life, and he's dragging us all to ruin. My mother fell to her knees, weeping of disaster. Not all of this had been part of my plan. But the broad strokes, they were exactly as I'd intended. When I first came to the capital, I'd truly hoped for a family. So I'd been good, well-behaved. I'd tried to earn their love. But then, I knew Shin Yan's nature. He was most dangerous when betrayed. And he was mad enough to do anything. He'd been the perfect blade to destroy my mother-in-law. to destroy the Shin household. And now, to make Rongjing feel nothing but guilt toward me. Beyond the city walls, Prince Rui had already received the jailer's message. One line, and all warmth left his eyes. The memory from his youth, the one who'd saved him, the small, frail figure in those chaotic times, it had haunted him for years. And now he knew he'd been deceived. Utterly. He'd even sent wedding gifts to Pei Chi's wedding. Rongjing tightened his reins, his usual mildness stripped away, leaving only a gathering storm. Without a word, he turned his horse and galloped toward the Pei mansion. Somewhere else, Pei Chi was also racing home. He'd been digging into past records, uncovering the truth of how I'd been treated in my own household. He remembered how Yunru had abandoned him for the prince's estate. They'd laid all the blame on me, on Prince Rui. Zhao Zhao had taken him by force. Yes, and he'd resented her for it. But these past days, tracing the threads, he saw their scheming for what it really was, so much crueler than anything she'd done. Perhaps it was the shock of his mother's death that made him feel so unmoored. Perhaps it was the memory of how he'd unjustly blamed Zhao Zhao that filled him with shame. But now, his need for her had grown fierce. The two men, one cold with fury, one burning with guilt, raced toward the Pei mansion, hooves pounding the silent streets. Inside the courtyard, Qin Yunru still stood over me, demanding submission. Kneel, bow 3 times, slap yourself 20 times, then I might let you live. Otherwise, I am Princess Consort Rui. It would take nothing for me to end your miserable life. Her jewels swayed as she loomed, her voice sharp with menace. I looked up at her, her hollow arrogance, her desperate need to break me. Dear sister, so careful, so afraid, and so eager to force my hand. Too bad, everything you cling to is about to shatter. The words had barely left my lips when the courtyard gates swung open. The armed attendants stepped aside, and there, at the threshold, stood Rongjing, in his dark princely robes, his presence like winter wind. Beside him, Pei Chi, his face a mask of regret and guilt. Both men's gazes swept across the courtyard and fixed on Qin Yunru. Mid-command, her attendants poised to strike. Silence. Qin Yunru's smile froze. She turned, slowly, and when she saw them, the color drained from her face. My lord. Her voice trembled. You're here. Rongjing ignored her. He walked into the courtyard. Each step on the flagstone sounded like a blow to every heart present. He stopped before me. Zhao Zhao, he said, the one who saved me when I was young. It was you, wasn't it? His voice was deep, clear, each word a stone dropped on the courtyard floor. Do you know I searched for you for 10 years? That knife you took from me, the scar beneath my shoulder blade, I've carried it for 10 years. I didn't speak, but the wind caught my sleeve and pulled it back. He saw the small mole at my wrist, and beside it, the scar from when we'd fled together as children. Recognition lit his eyes. He stepped forward, eager to explain. I'm sorry, Zhao Zhao. I didn't know the Shins had hidden you from me. I didn't know they'd married you into this den of wolves just to cover it up. Pei Chi and Qin Yunru both flinched at that den of wolves. Yunru opened her mouth, desperate to defend herself. Rongjing raised a hand, cutting her off. The Shin family, he said, will be dealt with. Then he turned to me, his voice softening. What do you want? Not a question, a promise. I looked at him in silence for a long moment. A divorce. The words hit Pei Chi like a blow. He swayed, his mouth opening, but Rongjing's look pinned him in place. Done, said Rongjing. What else? A severance from the Shin family. Even Yunru looked up now, her eyes full of dread. Not just a broken relationship. A royal decree, removing her name from the family register so that Xin Zhao would no longer be a Shin, and the Shin family could never use her name to advance themselves. Done, Rongjing said again. He paused, his gaze warm, almost tender. All these years, I wanted to find you. I reached into my robe and brought out the jade pendant I'd kept all these years, the token given to me by the boy I'd saved. The one who was now Prince Rui. At the sight of it, Rongjing's eyes widened, his face alight with joy and relief. You. You still have it? Pei Chi, as if burned by that warmth, looked at me with barely concealed anguish. Zhao Zhao. His voice was hoarse. You truly want to leave me? I didn't look at him. Instead, I smiled at Rongjing, a warm, bright smile. Big brother, I said. That's what I called you when I saved you. May I still call you that? At the familiar name, Rongjing's eyes reddened. He remembered the despair of his dying moments, and the small girl who had stayed by him. He nodded, his voice thick with emotion. Of course, Zhao Zhao. As long as I'm here, your big brother is here, no one will ever hurt you again. I smiled, as bright and warm as I had by the campfire all those years ago. I placed the pendant back in his hand. Back then, I didn't know you were royalty. I only hoped we could always look out for each other. But now that I know who you are, I'll be traveling far and wide, and I'll always return to the capital to see you. I won't forget my big brother. Something flickered in Rongjing's eyes, his brief excitement dimming. He understood my meaning perfectly. He let out a soft, self-mocking laugh as he took the pendant, turning it over in his fingers. The seconds stretched like years as I waited for his answer. He stared at the jade, lost in thought. Perhaps he was remembering our time together. Finally, he spoke. His voice low. Zhao Zhao. I understand. I kept my smile steady, watching him. Zhao Zhao, you mean far more to me than you realize. His words fell softly, yet they echoed in my heart. He was too clever not to see through my deliberate tenderness, my calculated appeal to his memories. He was telling me I didn't need to use such methods on him. I lowered my head, suddenly ashamed of my own scheming. He laughed and gently tousled my hair. I'll acknowledge you as my sworn sister. I'll petition His Majesty to grant you the title of County Princess, a noble rank for women of high status. This, I truly hadn't expected. At my stunned look, he smiled with the same gentleness as the boy who'd once roasted sweet potatoes for me. Zhao Zhao. I told you, no one will ever bully you or force you again. Not even me. 7 days later, the divorce decree was placed in my hands. Pei Chi stood at the gate of his mansion, gaunt, unshaven, his eyes sunken. He watched me step into Rongjing's palanquin. His lips moved, but no words came. Half a month later, Prince Rui submitted a secret memorial. Then, the patriarch of the Shin family was stripped of office and placed under investigation. The eldest son, Qin Yan, was sentenced to immediate execution. The eldest daughter, Qin Yunru, was stripped of her title and reduced to commoner status. On the day the Shin mansion was raided, I watched from afar. My mother sat on the threshold, her hair turned completely white, clutching a broken memorial tablet and weeping. My father, as they led him to the prison cart, looked back. His eyes were as hollow as a dried-up well. And Qin Yunru, when she was cast out of Prince Rui's mansion, she wore only a thin shift. Barefoot, she walked through the snow. As she passed the Pei mansion gate, Pei Chi stood on the steps, watching. He didn't go down. He did nothing. Just as he'd done nothing as I drank that bowl of bird's nest soup. The county princess's mansion lay in the southeast corner of the capital, a grand vermilion-gated estate. Servants filling its halls. Rongjing visited often. Sometimes he brought a box of pastries. Sometimes a hairpin. Sometimes he came with nothing at all, just sat in the hall and watched me prune the flowers. Through the window, the sunlight was gentle, gilding the petals like a thin layer of gold leaf. I found myself thinking back to that winter, when I was 8, crouched behind the stone lion at the temple gate, listening to wild dogs gnawing on bones, certain I would die there. The last thing I'd thought was, when is my brother coming to get me? Now I knew. No one would ever come. You have to walk out yourself. Walk into the sunlight. Above them all, look down at them. Look at them like the ants they are. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and support my channel. Let me know in the comments what kind of stories you would like to see. Feel free to check out my other videos as well, they have some great stories too.